So you're probably feeling it. SEO is not what it used to be, and you're no longer ranking the way you used to. So if you're still keyword stuffing and hoping that Google notices, that version of SEO is now dead. On this week's Profit with a Plan podcast, we're exposing why the old school SEO tactics are just outdated and they're killing your visibility. My guest, Stephen from Trio SEO, shares what is actually working right now to rank, convert, and stay ahead of the AI-driven search wave. You're going to get fast SEO wins, why long-term SEO still delivers high ROI, and how to create content that's optimized for Google and tools like ChatGPT. So if you're serious about ranking in 2025 and beyond, this episode is your wake-up call. Hey entrepreneurs, are you working too hard for too little profit? Well, welcome to Profit with a Plan podcast, where we help you scale smarter, increase profitability, and build a business that's worth more, whether you're keeping it or selling it. I'm Marcia Reiner, business growth strategist and the profit booster behind Infinite Profit. I've helped countless entrepreneurs to turn their businesses into highly profitable and sale-ready assets, so they enjoy more income now and a bigger payday later on. So join me for practical strategies, expert insights, and proven steps to make your business more profitable, more valuable, and built to last. So today's episode is sponsored by Infinite Profit, where we don't just talk profit, we deliver it. But before we dive in, I've got something special for you. And I'm thinking if you're a business owner who's tired of that overcomplicated, overpriced marketing strategies that just don't deliver up, well, listen to this. What if you had a simple, affordable way to market your business that actually works? The Profit Booster Marketing Hub is your all-in-one marketing system built specifically, if I can get my mouth to work, for busy entrepreneurs who want real results without hiring a full team. It's automated, intuitive, and comes loaded with pre-designed templates, a CRM that's super powerful, social media tools, email, and text automation. Everything that you'd want to capture, nurture, and close those leads. So if you're ready for a low-cost, easy-to-use marketing system that gets the job done, visit profitbooster.biz and let's make your marketing more profitable. All right, let's jump into today's episode. Stephen Schneider is the co-founder and CEO of TrioSEO, a results-driven agency that helps B2B brands build and execute SEO strategies that actually move the needle. Before launching TrioSEO, Stephen scaled a portfolio of over 40 content sites to 7 figures without using paid ads, social media, or gimmicks, just smart, strategic SEO and high-performing content. At their peak, his team published and optimized over 400 articles each month. Today, Stephen leads TrioSEO in delivering fully managed, ROI-focused SEO system that turns browsers into buyers. Their done-for-you approach gives founders and CMOs real growth without adding to their workload. Stephen, welcome to Profit with a Plan podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, me too. This is such a super topic and so timely right now with the way that, chat and everything else is changing in the world at like hyper speed. I wanted to have you on and I was just like, oh, this is going to be such a good conversation.
Yeah, there's lots to unpack. It changes day by day or second by second.
Exactly, which is crazy. So how in the world did you get into marketing and SEO? I mean, that's kind of a niche space.
Yeah, it was accidental, which I think most things in life are produced by dumb luck. But yeah, I was in college and we were working on a group presentation, and one of my good friends at the time kind of dropped suddenly that he was a business owner, and I kind of laughed and scoffed, and I was like, yeah, right, like what business could you possibly have on the side? And he opened the door to SEO and showed me that he had a couple of websites on the side, and combined they were making about 10 to 15 grand a month while he was also in college. And I very quickly forgot why I was in college and like why I was even doing anything in life that wasn't that. And so I quickly just became a sponge and he became my mentor, and one thing led to another. And that was kind of what kickstarted that first company where we co-owned portfolio of about 40 different sites. This was back in the Amazon affiliate heyday. And yeah, we scaled that to a little over 7 figures. It was quite a fun ride.
Congratulations. That's an awesome
Thanks.
story. And you hear those those stories about what you learn in college is not really necessary. It's you learn how to learn, but your connection, right, of your friend and the idea spawned to where you are today, which is really the benefit I think you get out of college these days is the connections. So that's awesome.
Totally.
Cool. Okay. So let's talk about SEO. And really why it isn't working. And I asked this because I had a client come to me last year, the end of last year, and panicked, like fear was in his eyes. You could just imagine he's like chain smoking kind of thing, that his site was not performing at all. And he blamed it on SEO and ran around like crazy. And what changed?
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. We're usually the first people to get blamed for most
Of
of that
course,
stuff.
right?
I
Someone
take
has to take the axe.
full accountability for that. It's just the space is so it changes every second, like I said. And I think that depending on when the site was built, you
Mm,
really have to go back to when that kind of era, because usually websites are kind of time locked in that era. And so if somebody doesn't think about their SEO, doesn't think about their website, and it was built in, say, 2010, well, they think that that's the end all be all. And I never have to worry about my website again, because thank God that I had this SEO come in 15 years ago and fix it. And that's just not the case. You really have to keep up to date on what matters and what's quality and what Google puts out as quality guidelines, and also just kind of keeping your finger on the pulse. So it makes sense that things change every single day, and it's fortunate for that
mm.
person.
So, okay, so let's break down like some basics, some SEO 101. So, I think of SEO in two ways. Excuse me, I have a frog in my throat today, but I think of SEO in two ways. I think of it as the content, words, and stuff that's on your site that is relevant to the person searching for you. And then number two, there's like some behind the scenes stuff, right? That has to have the right kind of content and words and tags and all that other stuff behind the site. So when we're talking about SEO, we're talking about both, right?
Yeah, I'll make it even much more simple.
Good.
There's two buckets you pretty much have to think about, which comes down to content, which kind of what you said, and the other thing is authority. And
Mm,
so I was just having a call with a potential client, and they were asking, what is this authority? Like, why does that matter? And I said, think about it from this perspective. If you have website A versus website B, and they're both in the health space or the law space for that matter, and one person has 35 years of experience and the other person has 3 months of experience, which one would you rather work with? And that's exactly how Google takes into consideration how the rankings are played out. And so that's obviously kind of ties back to backlinks and the quality of the backlinks. And then that's a whole rabbit hole right there. But at the end of the day, Google wants to be able to put a credible resource at the top of the list and have quality content to give the user.
okay. Well, that is a lot simpler, and I missed that section of it. Obviously, I'm not an SEO expert, but question then. So, if you're looking for authority, how does one have authority that Google can scrape and see that proves that I've been in business 35 years compared to the guy with 3 months next to me?
So the one thing is really the age of the domain or your website. So Google
Mm,
knows for sure how long it's been around. If it was purchased in 1999 versus 9 months ago, that's a really easy thing for Google to identify. And
okay.
usually the older the website, the more backlinks it has. And so a backlink is essentially just a vote of confidence. Somebody else is choosing to mention you on their site and provide a link to your website. So if like this show goes live and it says, hey, you can learn more about Steven by visiting TrioSEO.com. That link that you essentially add in the show notes of your website pointing to mine gives Google some confidence because you voluntarily did that. And it's not like a scammy or shady tactic. If you're kind of vouching for me and the brand, then obviously there's some credibility there. So as many of those trust signals that you can get in your industry from allies or synergistic partners or podcasts, whatever it may be, is kind of what contributes to your authority in the space.
Got it. That makes so much more space rather than remember way back when you were like 10, they'd have at the bottom of your footer, they'd have keywords stuffed, right?
Oh
With all
yeah.
these words and locations and spots and craziness for SEO, right? And none of that doesn't matter anymore, right?
No, and even funnier enough, like I think back in the day, one of my favorite, what's called now a black hat tactic, like a spammy thing that does not work, is that people would add a bunch of extra keywords to a page and then just turn the text white. And so they wouldn't show up on the page. But if you were to highlight the page, you just see all this text, like invisible text appear. And yeah, obviously, like Google pays a bunch of very smart people to catch on to stuff like that. So
Oh,
it does
that's
not work.
hilarious. Yeah, that's definitely old school. Okay, so now that we know that the authority is really important, and you said the age of the site. So if you're going to introduce a new site or a new funnel, that could actually be damaging if it's a brand new product that you're launching, even though you've been in business 35 years and you're launching this new segment of your business, that's not going to give you that authority, right? Or could it?
As long as it's still within the primary website, so as long as it's still on like the infiniteprofit.biz domain, maybe it's like .com/ lead magnet or whatever that is,
Right.
that's completely fine. What you don't want to do is go infiniteprofit.net and then the next time go infiniteprofit.com. Like those are all separate addresses. I guess the best way to think
Got
about it
it.
is like if you go to the grocery store down the street and they move 5 blocks over, how are the visitor is going to know that they moved without a "Hey, we're moving" sign. So stuff
Got
like that.
it. Well, you know what? That's scary because I know a lot of people that have about 50 domains in their cart,
Yeah,
right? That they hope to use one day or another or use off and on for different things, but that definitely loses the opportunity of having that Google search find you
right,
unless you're really, really good or you pay to get your way boosted to the top the other ways.
right.
Interesting. Okay. So authority, so if we were to rank authority versus content, what percentage do you think that has weight versus the content that you write?
I'd say about 80% is probably going to be more authority.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean,
Wow.
at least over half, I would say, depending on the niche or the
Okay.
space. So anything that falls into what we call like a your money, your lifestyle space. So this would be health, finance, legal, etc. Things that could like dramatically mess up your life if Google showed the wrong result. Those things
Mm,
just are much more protected SEO wise. So like your lawyer, partner, client, if they don't have the authority in their space, like it's much harder for them to rank. But other niches, are much easier. The more obscure they are, there's just less
I mean, if you're
competition.
selling flashlights, it's okay.
Yeah, that one's not too bad. I mean, I when I used to code on all the sites, like I was a jack of all trades, master of none. Like if you can think of a product, I've probably researched it, and I kind of like, yeah, you just can see some really random stuff you'd never guess. Be like, oh yeah, that makes sense why it's easy to compete. So usually the best way to think about it.
Got it. Okay. So when we're building authority, having the age of the site, the backlinks that do it, are those the only really authority builders? Would maybe testimonials or anything like that, Frank?
Yeah, so there's this acronym called EAT, EEAT, and that's straight from Google, and that stands for your expertise, your experience, the authoritativeness, and the trustworthiness. And that is kind of like the holy grail of quality content on what your site should kind of portray as, all the wins. So if somebody's coming to your website, testimonials fall into your experience and the expertise that you offer to clients. And so looking at things like that, like if you have a blog, your author should have an author bio and speak to the credentials you offer. Like, why do you have the authority to speak on this topic with depth? Like all those little things link together to kind of create this like perfect storm of what it needs to succeed.
Wow, this is tough, right? This is not anything that anybody can walk in and like do it themselves. It sounds like there's so many little nuances that need to be filled in just this one side of your SEO on it. All right, so let's talk a little bit about content then. Because rumor had it, or years ago, you could write a really good article that had really relevant stuff in it, and that could give you a boost in your SEO search, right?
Yep.
Is that
Yeah. So
still
with
is it still doing that?
Yeah, so with content, the best analogy I always like to refer back to is the iceberg kind of analogy. Like what sank the Titanic? It was all the ice below the water that you could never
Yeah.
see. And so that's essentially your blog. And so if you think about the ice above the water, that's like your home page, your about page, the contact page, kind of those boring must-haves. And then all of the blog content is what really adds depth to who you are, your authority, the expertise from a content point of view. So kind of going back to that, like site A versus site B, if site A has two blogs and site B has 200 blogs, there's just way more depth on the topic, and Google has more reason to believe that you actually know your stuff. So
Nice.
blogs just add keywords and add, more experience for the user. It's kind of like that overarching kind of go deep before you go broad conversation.
So doesn't each blog have to be optimized as well? I mean, don't they need to have all those little hidden bells and whistles that you need to have to make that blog be found? Because it's not just the blog
Oh yeah.
itself and the site. I mean, it's like,
Yeah,
oh my
SEO is like an
gosh.
onion. You think that you have it figured out, and then you just peel back another
And you
layer,
start
and there's a
crying as you're
whole
going
nother
through
layer.
it.
Yep,
You're
exactly.
peeling your onion and crying.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my
But
gosh.
yeah, it's not, I mean, it's obviously I'm biased, but once you kind of hear how it works and start to kind of go down the rabbit hole, it's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Like my blog
Sure.
should be written in a conversational tone and not sound like it was written for robots. Like probably a good best practice. Like it's not rocket science from that point of view, but yeah, there's a lot of technical stuff that I will not bore the audience with.
No, but this is also important to know because search is really important. A lot of us think that, oh, the old famous, you build it and they will come. Not even close. You can be
I
the best
wish.
kept secret with the best stuff ever if you're not doing it correctly. And then you just sit there and you're like, I spend all this time, money, um, my blood and sweat and my tears and heart are into it, and then it just sits there and nobody sees it. Are your podcast guest appearances leading to real business, or are you just hoping that listeners will take action? With the Profit Booster Podcast Monetization Hub, we turn your interviews into lead generating machines so that you capture, nurture, and convert listeners into paying clients. So stop leaving money on the table and get started today at profitboosterpod.com. So,
Well, and I think that the interesting thing that I kind of like to remind clients that we work with is that the best websites that have the biggest chances of success, whether it's from a small business owner or a Fortune 500 company, comes back to your branding. And
mm,
so if you're this, local consultant, but every single rep in your area knows you and you go to networking events and you're just the life of the party locally and they're talking about you, maybe you're doing guest articles on their site or they're linking to you because you did a podcast with them, like the more of a social butterfly you are in your space, the better your brand becomes, which helps your SEO in different areas as well.
oh, I love that. Okay. So by doing this podcast as an example, and then talking about the podcast and posting social on the podcast, and maybe doing, if the topic is SEO for the week, you're talking about SEO, right? So you're doing things that expand the idea of your brand and visibility beyond just one little thing, right?
Exactly. So like from my perspective, like I'm doing two podcasts today, and that's mainly just because the more visibility I can get, the better networking I can do. It all kind of ties back. Like, you get to, have this episode, like we both get the content, like we are sharing it, helping like you scratch my back, I scratch yours. And so there's infinite benefits, not only from this sort of collaboration, but the next person that kind of looks at searching infinite profit will likely find me, and the person that searches for Steven Schneider will find infinite profit. So it's kind of like
Yeah.
a two-way street from the SEO benefits.
Love it. And it's so funny. I'm glad you brought that up because I have so many guests. This is like, I've got literally 325 episodes in the can. Not all of them are released yet, but a large percentage of them are. And it's like I talk to people and they have these great conversations and great stories, and then they don't do anything with it. And I'm like, what are
Yeah.
you doing? Right? And you just validated that point becomes the viral status. Virility was coming to my mind, but I don't think that's an actual word or correct word. But the viral status of you coming on my show gives both of us leverage and allows you to multiply that out in so many different levels. It just boggles my mind why people don't.
Yeah, and that's kind of the weird thing is that like people often glaze over when they hear the word SEO or the term SEO, when really it's just, it's brand building and making sure you have quality content for your visitors and that you're a legitimate resource in your industry. Like it doesn't, I think that it's very easy to overcomplicate, but if you just kind of like simplify it to easier to understand analogies and definitions. Like it's people kind of connect the dots and are like, oh yeah, I probably should create a brand and I probably should have good content for my visitors and I probably should network more. Like a lot of those shoulds just kind of come down to musts.
Got it. So let me ask you a question. So the chain smoker I talked about earlier, right? He went and had a lot of content on his site, like almost like you could get lost and not find the answers, or worse, you could find all the answers you ever wanted and didn't realize you wanted. So is more content and more pages and levels and pieces and stuff is more better, or could more also be confusing to Google and therefore, I mean, in my viewpoint, it was very confusing to the audience, but would Google find that valuable or would that deter?
Yeah, so content and keywords that you add to your site are essentially just doors in a house for people to find you. The main thing that we try to keep in mind when working with clients is that it only makes sense if the content that you're adding is based in search demand. So if a CMO comes to us and like, hey, I want to write this article on XYZ, and I'm like, hey, there's literally zero people searching for this. Like I can happily help you create this content, but in terms of your organic reach, it will not help you. It's more of a internal resource from that side. So
Got it.
many people will close their eyes and write down 10 topics for their blog and think, oh, this is exactly what my customers want, but it's not. And so I think that if you go from a strategy first approach and use like keyword tool or figure out what people are searching for intent wise and work backwards, then absolutely hammer down on content. But don't spend hours and hours and hours creating these blogs thinking that they're just going to magically appear when that's not how it works.
Love it. And that goes circles back to the point that you're writing for your audience. You're
Right.
not writing for SEO, right? You had mentioned to write for the human that's going to consume the data and actually search for you, right? Um, I think that's beautiful in the point that we should know our customer and the problems and things that they're searching for so we can be positioned to be found when they're searching for us because that's
Yeah.
what SEO is. It's search.
Exactly. Everything is based in intent. That's the main thing, is just making sure that you have a correct intent and something to match the offer based on whoever's looking for it.
Love it. Okay. So with this in mind, we have now the authority. We've got a properly aged website. We've got the backlinks that are important in there. We're doing the authority and the expert status. We've got great content that has intent with it that is attracting our audience in there. Um, what if it's just in black and white? Do we need to have graphics and all that other kind of stuff and videos?
Videos, not so much. I would say that's like the extra mile if you really
Okay.
have that. Images for sure. You have to remember that images also act as an accessibility tool for people who may not be able to read your content. So, maybe there's like a voice adoption tool that you can add to your blog where it maybe uses a AI script to speak the blog instead of allowing people to read it. So accessibility is huge. The
Okay.
better reach that you have, that's definitely going to help. But
Good
images, like
point.
there's this thing called alt text, which stands for like alternative text. So you want to describe the image to people. So, making sure that it's well diverse and description is matched aligned with what the image shows. So yeah,
Not
definitely want
just
to
the
make
title
sure.
of it. Like my
Correct.
headshot doesn't just say Marcia Reiner image. It says Marcia Reiner in a purple dress holding a cup of
Yeah,
coffee
it's
with
great. Exactly.
really? Okay,
Yeah.
golly.
Yeah. And it's
Okay.
like that's like that little description change isn't going to move the needle. But the way that we look at it is if you're going to do
Everything
it
in it.
once, you might as well do it correctly. Yep, exactly.
Wow. Okay. So why isn't video when video's so popular in today's marketing, like bringing people to the top of the funnel, right? And the middle of the funnel, video just seems very heavy, but it has nothing to do with SEO.
No, don't get me wrong. Video is very important. I usually just try to ensure that people aren't overwhelmed by thinking that they have to do everything under the sun. And video is usually the
We
most
don't?
complex thing. I know, right? And so when people hear they have to do blogging plus website pages plus this and video, it's almost like analysis
Yikes.
paralysis, and video
Right.
is the most complex thing to master. So if you have that as a resource and you know how to do it well, by all means, it gives you that extra advantage. But don't bend over backwards thinking that you have to have this perfect equation in video as a component.
Got it, got it, got it. Okay. So talking about video for just a moment, but um I would assume that it's the captions in the video that are driving the SEO, right? Because like your alternative text in the graphics, the captions or the transcripts that are attached to the video are what's actually going to be read by Google, or can it actually read the video itself?
Yeah, so yes, it can. Yes, that matters. The bigger thing is actually the engagement, I would say as well. So if Google is experimenting with your content and sends users to your site and you're getting clicks and impressions, but those visitors are not staying on your site for very long, maybe they're on that page for 2 seconds, they read your hook sucks, they leave. It's just not going to work. Like Google has that data in their system that shows that, hey, we sent 100 people there and nobody stayed for more than 5 seconds. Like that's probably you missed the mark somewhere. And
Got it.
so those little things, like we train all of our writers so heavily to write good hooks because they matter so much to the entire next step of the equation. Or, like at the beginning of your blog, you should have a TLDR, too long didn't read summary section because
Love it.
if you have a recipe article, there's nothing worse than skimming through 10,000 words of content to get 6 steps to bake a cake. It's the same thing.
Right.
So,
Right. Love it. Love it. Okay. So let's talk about that. You brought that up. How often does Google decide to look through your site or, scroll it? Like, is it every time I do an update, or is it like a standard, or are they constantly looking at my site?
yeah, Google crawls your site probably every day or every other day.
Okay. Every
Yeah.
site out there, or only
So
sites that have new
more,
stuff?
yeah, more active sites or bigger sites get crawled more often because Google's incentivized to show more fresh content. So
Mm,
if you start publishing a bunch of content, it's kind of that compounding effect that many SEOs mention because Google will start to pick up on the fact that like, hey, you published 5 articles last month and you're doing 5 articles again. And like, oh, we see another 5 articles. Like it's going to start picking up on that and then kind of circle back to your site more often. But if you just publish one article and then 6 months later you publish another one, it doesn't really know what you're doing. And so it's not going to pick up on that.
And how often should we go through and like if I'm doing, I guess as long as I'm doing the blog, right, then it should be picking up and scrubbing. But if I haven't adjusted or freshened any of the other three or four pages, or God, I hope it's not a dozen pages, but 3 or 4 or 5 pages that are in there. If I'm not freshening that regularly, do those pages get crawled?
They still get crawled, but I wouldn't worry too much. It's more or less about like, do the service pages or the other pages on your site, are they based with the goal of ranking and driving traffic? So if no, I wouldn't worry about updating them because usually your internal visitors will play hopscotch and get to that page regardless. But if it's
Mm.
like an SEO optimized page and you started with a keyword and you want to rank for this specific thing, like, yeah, you should be updating that, making sure it's optimized and refreshed and kind of on par with what competitors are doing out there.
Got it. So it's no longer the site, it's the actual page and the content of it. So one of my pages, my about us or contact us, never gets crawled, but
Right.
I'm not sending people to contact me unless they're already inside. It's
Yep.
the blog or the introduction or the offer page that I
The
have that
offer
I
page.
really
Yep.
want to have that fine-tuned and dialed in, right?
Exactly.
Awesome. This is fun. I mean, I got
Yeah.
a lot of questions and I could probably
Keep
keep
going.
going
I love
down
it.
on
No,
this
you're good.
because these are really good. These are really good things.
Yeah,
And
this
I
is what I
think
nerd out on. I love it.
right? Well, I'm a marketing geek by interest, it's just evolved and developed. I mean, I'm a business consultant. I used to be a financial planner that led into the business consulting. So it's like this evolution, but I've always geeked on marketing. And so it's just a lot of fun for me. And I think that it's when you put it in a package of your business, right? You have to have an engine or a conveyor belt of bringing people to you, marketing and SEO, right? And then it's like becomes, okay, how do you increase sales and get your sales conversion? And then how do you service? I mean, it's all part of it, but that's the front door, right? That's
Exactly.
that's the you could be the best kept secret if you're not doing the right stuff on the front end, which is marketing and using SEO to attract people to you rather than going out and buying them from ads or lists or networking or whatever you're doing. It's that drawing it in versus going out and getting, if that
Yeah,
makes sense.
100%. I mean, especially with just like with how AI is evolving and ChatGPT is popping up, it's like so many of our clients are now getting leads through ChatGPT
Isn't
and
that amazing?
Perplexity and all that sort of stuff. And it's like a new evolution of SEO, and but it's still the same, kind of playground of sorts where same thing, like you're getting inbound traffic, you didn't pay for it. You don't have to pay PPC or advertising fees every month. Like as long as you have the authority and the content, like that's essentially free traffic to get.
Love it. So how does one take advantage as the last question? Because again, we could talk forever on here, but as the last question, how does one take advantage of getting AI search?
Pretty much the same thing that I've just kind of like
So
been
it is
beating
the
the drum
same. It's that
about.
simple, right?
Yeah, I mean, the kind of challenging aspect with AI search is that it's so fresh that SEOs still don't know what's going on. And as much as I would love to say that I am the expert of that, like I can't claim that just
You're the
yet.
expert
But
of the hour.
exactly. So like from what we've seen is that there is a lot of overlap, and as long as you have an authoritative website, quality content, and other people are talking about you kind of in that same name and what you do and the services you do, like the who, what, when, where, why sort of stuff, like
Hmm.
you will likely be pulled in for certain queries and certain prompts and stuff like that. So um, there's no reason to reinvent the wheel in SEO. We kind of always say that we're boring SEOs from that matter. Like just do the basics, do them forever, do them longer than your competitors and be patient. Like that's the biggest thing.
Mm. Well, thank you, Stephen. This was amazing, and it's such really in-depth conversation on SEO and the differences of what it used to be and what it is now, and how to really maximize for the best opportunity in this moment. So thank you for that. But where
Of
can
course.
listeners find out more about you and Trio SEO?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm very active. I post daily content. You can also Google me with Trio SEO. I always joke that if you can't find me on Google, I'm doing my job wrong. So that's kind of the first step is to just
The cobbler's kids' shoes, right?
exactly. Yeah, I mean, trioseo.com or LinkedIn is kind of the two places I hang out most.
Nice, nice. All right. Well, cool. I'm definitely got a fresh eyes on this and looking at the way that, we get ourselves found, which is what we have to do, right? And it's all about the breadcrumbs you leave everywhere else. I think that all add up into bringing people into your site and being found. So thank you.
Exactly. Of course.
All right. Thanks, listeners, for tuning in today. I hope you picked up on some valuable insight and actionable ideas that can help you make your business more profitable. And I know for a fact, SEO and being found when someone searches for something is super worth your time and a valuable investment in your business's growth engine is to be found when someone is looking for that for you, right? And if you're in a closet somewhere and nobody finds you, you're not going to make sales. All right. So if you're tired of overpriced marketing that's complicated and time consuming, check out the Profit Booster Marketing Hub for your low cost, easy to use alternative to expensive strategies, complete with automations, templates, and a personalized strategy call. Go get the details at profitbooster.biz. And don't forget to subscribe. You don't want to miss future shows. You can always catch Profit with a Plan on any of your favorite podcast platforms. We're looking forward to more great profitable strategies on next week's show. So until then, make your plans and profit with them. Thanks so much, Stephen. This is great.
Thank you.